Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our new session of the MCAST. We have Amen Iseghohi.
How you doing?
Thank you, brother, for coming here today.
Truly a pleasure.
You have a beautiful, unique story. We cannot wait to dive into it. You're an entrepreneur, influencer, public speaker, and also a mind performance specialist.
That's right.
Perfect. I was very excited when you answered my email and you said, yes, I will be at the podcast. I shared the news with Ray, and since then we were looking forward to having you today. We'll get Ray to dive into the first question.
Yes, welcome. In fact, when we first spoke about Amen, you sent me his podcast clip of your own podcast, right? So you're also in the podcasting world, and Ali and I just got into it. But speaking of podcasts and themes, the theme of ours is, what does it mean to live a good life?
Right.
And that's what I want to ask you today to start our conversation. What does it mean to live a good life for you?
Well, first of all, let me thank you guys for having me here on your podcast. I checked it out and I thought your philosophies and your values aligned with mine, And speaking about that, the first question you just asked is pretty much in line with my philosophy on life. What is it to live a true life? I think it comes down to authenticity. I think it's important you live a life of authenticity. If you do not live a life of authenticity, eventually you will find that you're never a happy person. You can pretend to be happy. You can look strong. You can look happy. You can look, content. But unless you truly are happy, content, eventually the catch up and it'll show. That is my personal experience from my journey, and the people that I admire are people that live a life of authenticity.
Let's go back to your journey. You were born and raised in Belgium.
Yes.
And I believe at the age of 8, you moved to West Africa.
Yes.
To Nigeria.
Yes.
And you lived with your grandmother. Can you tell me more about the life you had there and how much of an impact it made in your life to become the person you are today?
Well, that's a great question. And even though I was born in Belgium, I was raised in London.
Okay.
But my experience in Africa was inspired by my grandmother, right? She had a very low tolerance for lazy kids around the house. And coming from London with so much, I learned how to live with so little. So being with my grandmother in West Africa, we didn't have all the fancy equipment or the fancy luxuries that you would typically see in any other environment like in the West. When I say the West, I mean the UK and then the US. We had abandoned tires around the compounds. That's what we played with. But we were the happiest kids. We had so little, but we acted like we had so much. So my grandmother would have us move, but teach us serious life lessons based on her experiences. But she would have us move because she thought movement is life. And the tire became a representation of movement for her. Okay. So when I, as I grew up in life, I would always go back to that experience as the genesis of what inspired my philosophy, my mindset, and pretty much the way I do business and live life, to be honest with you. It's really all about learning how to do more with less. And I find that in the culture we live in today, the kids could do with that lesson too.
I mean, there is a lot of distraction. We have access to tons of information.
Yes.
We have tons of access to tons of everything.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very hard to make a decision which one to go with. Mm-hmm. In your line of work is all about it aligns with the theme of the podcast, what it means to live a better life, right? And people seek your services to feel better, to look better, to think better. Mm-hmm. But you're a human, right?
Yes.
And you have bad days and you have good days.
Of course, yeah.
How do you stay positive and with a high energy? Because ultimately, people are using your services to get out of whatever they're going through.
Yes, of course, that's a great question again. But the way I see it is this. I think one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in life is that they believe when they get out of their house, they're owed a good life, like they're owed a great day. I think it's your responsibility to go out there and make it a great day. A positive life isn't handed over to you. The first gift of life is to take your first breath. When you wake up in the morning and you take that first breath, Keep in mind, a lot of people didn't even get that chance to get that first breath. They didn't get a chance to have to do it over again. You don't get to do life twice. I'm yet to meet a single person that has gone through life and gone to the other side and come back and go, Amen, check this out. Over there is the best. Over here is just practice.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, this is it. So you got to live life to the fullest. Life is like a mirror. What you put out is what you get back. You test it out. If you smile at someone, their first inclination is to smile right back at you. If you go out there with a miserable energy, guess what you're going to get back? It's a miserable attitude. And I always say misery loves company, but so does positive people. Positive people like to meet other positive people. So I think you talked about decision earlier. I think that's a powerful choice that we have that we don't use enough, right? Yeah. We have the power to make a positive decision, but we also have the power to make a negative decision. So your life goes in the direction which you focus on.
Yeah, I mean, you know that, I know that, he knows that. But if you go back to Africa, for example, right, you know, you don't have much, but yet people are happier, right? And as you grow to become an adult, you become the person of like a byproduct of your own environment,
right?
Versus someone who was born here and raised here. This person will become a product of their own environment.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the difference is.
Well, I see where you're coming from with that, but I think it's a difference, is a distinction without much of a difference, because you can choose your environment. You have that power of choice. I have people, some of the most successful people came from the worst parts of the world. So if you say a detriment to your success is now because you have a lot, then if you have a lot, then you have a lot to make the changes. Then you have the ability to make the change. There are people in Africa, for example, they've managed to make themselves happy without having a lot.
Yes.
So just by that measure, if they have the ability to do that with so little, for sure you have the ability to change that mindset. And this is where I come in from the work that I do. This is where the professionals, the athletes, or just the general public would say, I mean, how can you help me? I'll tell you a story. Once I went to school and I did my self-esteem building program at a school.
Okay.
It's called This 360, which stands for True Healthcare Is Selfcare.
Yes.
So I had to go run the program at a school, but when I was done running the program, we caught this on camera. So one of the kids came and grabbed my hand. We have it on camera, and he goes, man, I want to thank you for teaching me how to be a good person. And I swear my heart stopped beating when he said that. I said, I'm not here to teach you how to be a good person. I'm here to remind you that you've always been a good person.
That's phenomenal.
And I think that message transcends the kids. It transcends the environment. It goes right into your mindset. If you have the right mindset, whether you live in a poor country or a rich country, I've traveled all over the world now, and I realize that is consistent amongst people that are happy. You define your success by your own experience. There are folks with a lot of money that are very unhappy people. There are folks with very little, and they're more happy with their lives than someone that's financially wealthy. I had a guy tell me once, I'd rather have a lot of money and be unhappy than have a lot of money. Have no money.
I hear that all the time.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, earlier, I want to talk about something here. And earlier you touched on being happy is in line with living a life of authenticity. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to follow up with something that happened to me just this week. And I want to share it on this podcast. Have you ever been driving or been turning in bed or been, thinking that you're not living, whether it's not an authentic life, but you're not living in line with who you really are? Have you ever felt that?
Absolutely, I have.
You have?
Yes.
So I felt that in the last week where for some reason I was extremely tired, but I couldn't sleep. And my mind was racing. And I kept thinking about, you're 41, 42 years old. I thought of a measuring tape. And I thought to myself, if I take a measuring tape out all the way to the average age of how much a man can live now, which is say 70, maybe if we're lucky 75, I'm more than halfway there in my early 40s. So I see this measuring tape and I see 42, and then I see, shit, there's less than what I've already lived left. So what do you really want out of life? So I asked myself in the middle of the night, do you really want a lot of business, always being busy, always on the go, looking at the better car, the nicer model, the this, the that. And that's the reason why most people, including myself, in certain situations have been extremely unhappy. And I've been in situations where I've asked myself, what do you really remember of last year? And if I look at my last year, I remember the road trips with my kids and my wife, the vacations, the dinners, the get-togethers at home, the times around the pool in the backyard. But I'm sorry to say this, as much as I value and love all my clients, I probably won't remember 6 months ago which house I sold and how much I had to sell it for, so on and so forth. And I've come to a point in my life where I think you got to take it or leave it, and you got to accept me for who I am, and that's the way I'm going to be happy. And the fact that you said authenticity is the way to be happy, this for me is like you hit the nail on the head for me. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you started that way, because it literally applied to my life over the last week and a half. And secondly, I want to talk about you saying that movement is life. That's why we weren't living during COVID, because there was no movement. Gyms were closed. Restaurants were closed. You weren't allowed inviting any family members or friends over, but you were allowed going to the SAQ. Think about it, right? So there was no life because there was no movement. And that, I think, is genius. Where there's movement, there's life. Because if you're sitting at home and you're doing nothing, you're not living life, right? But when you're out and about, you're living life. But honestly, those two things for me, I'll remember this podcast just because of that. We could end it right here.
No, you touched on a great point yourself, but when I mentioned authenticity, it's important to understand that authenticity involves vulnerability.
Absolutely.
You cannot be truly authentic without being vulnerable to some extent. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of. When you asked me a direct question, if I've ever been there, yes, I have. I have no problem saying that. And when I was in the States, I was in corporate America at one point, and I was doing very well in corporate America. But I was haunted by the words in which my father would say to me many times, for you to be happy, for you to be truly successful, it's really not about the money, but you're going to a country where the culture is based on how you look, not how you feel. It's one thing to look successful. It's another thing to feel successful.
Exactly.
It's another thing to look happy. It's another thing to be happy. So when I left corporate America, I left a business with my business partner, and at the height of the business, we were doing so good. And I decided at night, kind of like yourself, I couldn't sleep. I'm a light sleeper. I wake up 4:30 every morning. I go to bed about 10, but I couldn't sleep. And I was pacing up and down in Scottsdale in my condo at the time. And I remember thinking, something is not sitting right with me. I'm very successful financially. Things are great, but this isn't the life that I want. And I remember saying that to my mother of my kids, and she's like, what's your problem, But that particular night, I woke up pacing up and down, and I decided right then I was going to do something about it. And I came to America not for this. This isn't it. This can't be it. So this is my reality every day for the rest of my life. And I knew that wasn't it. So I got up the very next day, I had a breakfast meeting with my business partner at the time. I said, you know what? I'm checking out.
You felt did you feel that you were a slave of the system?
Yes, I felt, but I felt it in a very, what was the word for it? It was very vivid to me. It was a vivid.
You had clarity.
I had clarity. I knew this wasn't it. I could feel it. I would get up in the morning. I think it happened once when I had a fire and I had to let go of a lady that worked for our company that I hired, and I knew her kids. And I said, wow, she actually didn't really do anything wrong per se. We just needed to make cuts at a time. And the company was doing great. But I said, this can't be it. There's got to be more to life than that. And I went home and I got up that night. That night stays in my mind because that was the day that I began to build my legacy. Because when you're doing something that aligns with you, everybody in the room may not even see it, but it's your responsibility and your burden to see what aligns for you. Because when I said I was going to do it, the first thing my partner said to me at the time was, let me get this right. You're going to take tires and go to a park and flip it. Well, what? Are you going through a breakdown? Do you owe money that I need to know about? Can I help you out with something? I said, you're not going to understand this, but that's how I want to start it. I want to start it based on movement. He said, you're going to leave this business for that. I said, yes. And that's what I've done. I've never been a happier
You haven't looked back.
I have never looked back. It's the best decision and the toughest one that I've ever made. But I'm living in my authenticity. I get up every day. Everything that I do in my life right now, I created it.
Okay.
Talk to me about the fear and insecurity going through your mind when you meet your business partner, knowing that I'm leaving stability, financial security, going into a situation where the unknown is.
The truth is, there was no fear for me. I was excited. But I saw fear, if I'm to be entirely honest about that, was from the people around me that cared for me. So people that care for you may give you the worst advice and the wrong advice because they are advising you based on their experience, not yours. But most people were very worried, but I wasn't scared. Because I was ready to lose everything to gain everything. You know, everything for me was, who am I impressing here?
But because you were providing for them as well.
Yes. Well, my family.
Exactly. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you're changing gears.
Yes.
What's going on here?
Yes. But I wasn't, you know what? I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared to that. I was excited because I had that self-confidence.
Okay.
If I can do this, if I can take a company from 0 to 8 million, at that time, $8 million was a lot. Right, for us. Now the company is doing much. At the time, 8 million, we started on cardboard boxes when I started with my partner. We worked for corporate companies at the time. We decided to go start this business together.
Okay.
And we literally started on cardboard boxes. We didn't have anything. And we grew from there. And I thought to myself, if I can do that, I can bet on myself to do well. I can do that. If you can't take a risk on yourself, but you can risk your time for someone else's vision in business, then your values are not aligned properly. So I bet on myself, and I bet on myself to win. I was 100% certain that I would give my best effort. I can't control the outcome, but I can control the effort. But I knew that I was ready to put the work in.
How do you share this message with people who are being coached by you? Because as a business owner, I have financial responsibilities. I have to pay my mortgage. I have to do this, and business sometimes is doing good, sometimes it's not. I have that fear of like failure, that stress. How do you advise a person to overcome these challenges? I mean, it's part of the cycle, but it
is. I can only advise you based on my experience.
Of course,
I keep it authentic.
Of course,
I don't advise people from a theoretical part or from a book that I read of how. I don't do that. I like to advise you based on my true experience, and I say to them, I say, fear is information. Failure is data. It tells you what, like if someone tells you no, they're actually telling you what you need to go work on to get a yes from them. Okay. If business doesn't work out, right, you're learning how to come back and make that business work for you. It's information. That's what it is. Disappointment is information. You need to change your perspective on how you look at fear, on how you look at disappointment. If you're scared, your life goes in the direction you focus on. If you focus on failing, if you focus on that long enough, you will fail.
Yeah.
And there's yet to be a successful person, and I challenge anybody to point me one, a truly successful person that has not failed. We call it failure, but I call it growth. There's a growth opportunity.
I like the fact that you said disappointment is information, is a feedback to yourself.
Absolutely.
Work with it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And once you have that mindset, it's like an athlete's mindset. If you do something wrong, you go back and you work on it, you get it right, and you'll be better than you were before you even did it wrong. But you got to believe in yourself to take that chance and be able to walk that road. Progress is not convenient. Progress is not pleasant. But you have to be willing to go through it if you want to progress.
There's only a minority of people that I know personally who seek growth and they learn from their mistakes, and they're always willing to learn. They will work with professionals, but they hold themselves accountable, and they know that they are not where they're supposed to be, but they have to put in the work. And then I know a large group of people who are always reactive when something really bad happens. financially or the business is not working, then they will seek a person like you to help them. And the minute they're up and running, then they stop the development and the growth.
Right.
Like, what's your message to
My
that group of
message is
people?
consistent across the board. It's like you have to be consistent as a person. You have to be disciplined as a person. Like, you know, it's like someone saying to me, oh, you know what, someone gave me once and said, my kid is lazy and he's not consistent in what he's doing. And that's why he's not going to be successful at what he wants to do. I said, actually, no, your kid is very consistent. He's consistent of being lazy. You know what I mean? That's what he does. So if you say to me that you're worried about being successful at your business and you're consistently not willing to do what it takes to get there, you're not willing to see past the challenges, because the challenges are opportunities also. Wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. Yeah. But you've got to have the discipline and the wherewithal to kind of know what it is and see it as an opportunity. If you go with that mindset and find the opportunity, it's not going to be handed over to you. You know, like I've said before to a client, nobody gives you success. Nobody says you're such a nice person, I'm going to give you success. You have to go out there and take success. If it's yours, go out there and go get it and stop whining about it, because nobody really cares. Nobody cares about your whining. They'll smile in front of you and tell you they care. They will appease your feeling of self-pity, but as soon as you turn your back, they'll take a deep breath of fresh air. Exactly. And be like, I'm glad he's out of here. I don't need that energy right now. That's just a fact. Whether you want to hear it or not, I'm going to tell you the truth. You know what I'm saying? Success isn't based on how great a person you are. It's how well you're willing to work for it.
That's right.
That's so true, because when I started in the business, I had a vision for where I wanted to go. And I always believed that growth is everything. So you have to constantly be growing, you have to constantly be learning, and you have to get out there and get it. No one tells me to get out of bed and go and, you know, start a podcast with Ali, you know, do something at M Real Estate, you know, break records or whatever, win awards. Those things have come, they're a byproduct of effort. But you also get to a point in your life where you have to define what success means to you. I know some people, success to them means having every weekend off with their family and their kids. To some people, success means, you know, flying in a private jet, right? Yeah. And then within your job or as an athlete, within your sport, there's individual success like awards, milestones, you know, what you want to attain, and so on and so forth. What would be your advice to someone that is at a point where they feel that I've done so much? And it's funny because I was listening to a sports podcast last night and they were talking about Steven Stamkos in Tampa Bay. So they recently got eliminated and he is up for his contract and they're saying he's achieved everything in Tampa Bay. You know, is he going to move on and try to mimic what he did in Tampa Bay with another team as a new challenge? So what's your advice to people that say, you know, I've kind of done it all? Have I overgrown my industry or my sport or my team? Or do I just keep the course and keep doing what I'm doing? Like when you're working with an athlete or a business professional, how do you navigate this?
Well, what you're defining right there is, or what you're describing right there is kind of like a plateau situation.
Exactly. Like, you know, when we work out?
Yeah.
And you hit a plateau?
You hit a plateau.
Yeah. And you're like, I can't lose more weight. I can't build more muscle.
Right.
So what do you do now?
Well, that's the thing about life, is about you have the ability to change things up.
Yeah.
Create more challenges for yourself, right? Set the goals a little higher. I don't think success is based on comparison, because we compare the worst of ourselves to the best of others. A lot of people do that. They say they're going through something as a challenge, but they're always looking at somebody else, so they never feel like they're doing enough. Well, you started the question really well. You have to define your own success. What is that for you? And then your ability to do that, you are the instrument for your success. If you feel like you're going through a plateau, then that is a message to you that you need to change things up. I'm not asking you to change the destination. I'm asking you to change the path to that destination.
Tweak it.
Yeah, tweak it. I'm not asking you to change. You want to be happy, right? But how you go towards being happy, you might need to switch that up a little bit. You know what? When I came to Canada, I said to myself, in the States, I worked all the time. Like I was just known as a workaholic. Just the way I was raised by my father anyway. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. I still do it now. I can't change it. At 4:30 in the morning, I'm up. I go to bed early about 10. Yes. Sometimes I'm up like 11, but I'm in bed already. At 10, I'm in bed. It's a discipline that I've gotten. But that discipline allows me to kind of have the clarity to go in the direction that I want to go to. So I said earlier on, you're going to have that level of vulnerability where you know what's right for you and what's wrong for you. If you have other people determine where your life goes, you will always come up short. Because people will set up standards that they can't even meet themselves, but they expect you to meet it. But they can't meet it. It's almost like pure entertainment. Let's see how far that guy can really go to get it. You know what I mean? So you got to set your own standards. But on the other flip side, people will set standards for you to appease you, to appease your ego. And they'll set the standards really low. Like when someone said, oh, you're doing really great right now. But you know if you're doing really great. You know if you can be great and you're trying to be good. Because being great, like I said before, is not comfortable. It's not convenient. You have to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable to get to that 1% up there. And a lot of people are comfortable being in the average because it gives the false illusion that everything is great.
But this is going back to we are a byproduct of our own environment. Like, I was born and raised in Morocco, and I remember when I was a young kid, I'm playing, say, soccer or playing any kind of sport. Only the 3 top guys will be basically rewarded.
Yeah.
What I see here, everyone gets a reward just for participating.
Yeah.
I think this is wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, what kind of kids are you raising?
Well, here's the truth. You're setting them up for disappointment because in the real world, you don't get a medal for participation.
Yes.
In the real world, you've got to stand out. You get a medal for distinction, right? You get a medal for setting yourself apart, doing the work that's required, and making sure you're the best of what you do. But again, the best by what? By, I said to my son in the car yesterday, if you give your best effort, your very, very best effort, you might get to that 100% that you want. Now, if you give 50% effort, you might not even get anything at all. Nobody gives you a reward for being nearly there. Nobody remembers the guy that was nearly there. They remembers, whether you like it or not, it's the reality of life.
Yes.
We remember those that crossed the line. Why? I was also saying to him, I said, it's interesting. How come the people that we call the great at what they do are always consistently great at what they do? What is it about them? They got 2 hands, 2 legs.
That's right.
How do they repeat that level of excellence?
That's right.
I can answer that.
Go for it.
Mindset.
That's it. It is mindset.
Yeah.
It's 100% mindset.
It's all mindset.
There is no other answer to that.
Yeah.
Yes. We can actually use the 3 tennis players as an example, right? Nadal, Roger,
Yeah.
and what's the third one?
Is it the one that looks like me? Because there's a tennis player, believe it or not, that looks like me.
That's the Greek. Is the Australian guy?
The Greek guy.
The Greek guy, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Kyriakos.
No, I was referring to Nokovic.
Oh, no, I have no idea.
Novak.
Novak. Yeah. Djokovic.
Yeah.
That guy has a solid mindset.
But it's just amazing how these 3 guys have been basically the top, for the last 15 to 10 years and consistent year after year. It's amazing. It's
Look at
mindset.
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Listen, success doesn't happen by accident. The greats make it look like it happens, like it's easy to happen.
Mamba mentality.
I have the book upstairs. It's on my desk. When I interview people, we often refer to that Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by accident. These guys, you see them excelling at their craft. The work is done behind the scenes when you don't see them, when nobody's applauding. They fail, and then they win. And what you get to see is the win. And you applaud the win, but you never get to see the sleepless nights. You never get to see the self-doubt. They have self-doubt just like everybody else. Yeah. But you don't get to see this because they've grown past it. They've come through that, and now they're excelling, and you're applauding that. What you want to know is ask them about what it was like when they had that self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I talked to them about. I was listening to the top female tennis athlete. What's her name again? I can't remember her name. Last year, she was at Wimbledon. She was the top one, and she was being interviewed. And they asked her that. They said, how did you overcome that point in the game where you almost lost the game. And she talked about it, and she goes, oh, my mindset coach is traveling with me.
Okay.
She takes her mindset coach with her. You know what I'm saying? That is how important your mindset
Have
is.
you watched King Richard?
No, I have not.
The movie about Serena?
Oh, yes, I have. What am I talking about?
Yes.
So their father was their mindset coach.
Yes.
You know, it
Yes,
was, you know, you have to overcome this, and this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And your life revolves around this. I mean, if you look at the greats, there's the ones that are born with talent and it's a God-given gift. And there's the ones that, you know, Michael Jordan wasn't first overall in his draft. If I'm not mistaken, he was fourth. And the guys who were drafted 3 before him, they were all supposed to be major superstars. Then there's this kid Jordan, you know?
His brother was...
Yeah, exactly. There's this kid Jordan in North Carolina. Yeah, who knows? And Nike goes after him. And if you watch the movie, the way they went after him, they saw something great in him. Because when they would go visit him and his family, he wouldn't be sitting around with his family. He'd be training. He'd be taking, 500 jump shots every day. Mamba mentality.
That's right.
Well, I mean, hard work will always outwork talent.
That's right.
You can be talented, but if you don't put in the work,
yes.
I mean, you can only go so far.
Well, if you have both, like I'll give you an example in our industry. I was recently speaking to a broker, and the broker goes, well, you're really established. So for you, it's easy. It's been 16 years to get established. They don't realize this.
Right.
They don't realize the times that I've been extremely stressed out. Mm-hmm. They don't realize the times where I haven't been able to sell a house for months at a time. They haven't realized the times where I had to work 2 jobs at the beginning of my career. Mm-hmm. But people don't see this. As Ali always says, everyone sees the iceberg. They don't see what's underneath, right? Yeah. And what we've been through in life.
Yeah.
And I think it applies to everyone. It applies to, one of the things I try to live my life by every single day is that every time you shake someone's hand or you give someone a hug or you say hi to someone, always understand that they're also fighting some sort of a battle.
Absolutely.
Every single person. It doesn't matter. You can have a yacht, private jet, and a Ferrari, or you can be taking the bus. It doesn't matter. Everyone is living some sort of a battle.
Now, you make a really good point. I'm going to digress slightly and talk about what you mentioned earlier about King Richard, the movie. And I remember a part of that interview where and there was an interviewer interviewing his daughter. I think it was Venus, with both the girls, and it was Venus Williams. And he asked her if she was going to do, how she was going to perform at the next event. And she said that she was going to win that event. And the reporter laughed at, kind of just giggled a little bit and said, how you really going to do at that event? How do you think you're going to do? And Richard got upset about that. She already told you she's going to win the event. Why are you trying to sow a seed of doubt in her head?
Yes.
Because he understood the importance of the mindset.
Okay.
He understood that what that reporter was doing, maybe he realized it or not, he was eroding her confidence. She already has the confidence to say, I'm going to win that event. It's not your place to question her resolve that she's going to win that event. And we have that a lot in our lives. We have a great idea. We have a great confidence about something we're going to do. You could be in a room of 10 people, with 10 people, and 9 of them could say, oh, what a great idea you have there. You're going to do well. But one person
has the mindset to go for it.
Yeah, but one person has a mindset. But one person could say, you can have a room of 10 people and 9 of them says you're going to do well. But if one person says you're not going to do well at it, I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. Most people listen to that one person.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And ignore the other 9 people that just gave you a vote of confidence. So you're appeasing the lower part of your energy and you're going to that negativity rather than that.
So you know what the problem is? As a society, we're very negative. And there's 2 reasons for that, in my opinion. One reason is the media. And the second reason is social media. They both fall into media. So when you look at the media will never tell you the economy is doing great. The media will tell you, buy a property for your kids because prices keep skyrocketing. So they instill fear in you. So it's negative. Now the same media is telling you shouldn't go out and, rent for a while because interest rates are high and there's going to be a crash in the market. Okay? When it comes to social media, we look at social media and we look at people's lives through their lens. So think about this, for example. Imagine 20 years ago, I told you that every morning you will be able to wake up in your bed and see what everyone you know did last night. And you'll be able to live it through their eyes. You would be like, you're crazy. I'm going to need like special goggles for this, right? It's literally happening. I can wake up and before any prayer, any meditation, any self-work on myself, I can take a look to see what the guys from 5 Pound did last night, where Ali was for dinner last night, where you were working out yesterday, where my friend was, having drinks. And what happens there is that you're lying down in bed thinking, well, I wasn't doing that. I was doing this. I'm working too much. This is my life. And as a society, since we've become so negative, only the positive, in my opinion, are the ones that are rising. So you'll see, negativity everywhere. The economy sucks. The interest rates are too high. There's going to be a recession. There's this, there's that. But then there's the people that get up every morning and they're like, it doesn't matter. If interest rates are high, there's an opportunity. That means people are going to sell.
Well, is it negativity or distraction?
I think social media is distraction. I think the media is negativity. I do not believe that the media's goal in North America is to spread positivity. I'm a firm believer of this. I think everything revolves around negativity and fear. I think they instill fear in everyone.
And it's a business for them, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the numbers of viewers that they have to captivate to keep going.
Like I said earlier on, in line with what you said, that's a great point, by the way, with social media, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier on, social media kind of sows the seed for you or creates the platform for you to now compare the worst of yourselves to the best of others. Because what you're seeing is people showing their showtime reel. People don't go on social media and tell you the worst of their days. They're not showing you the authenticity of what they went through. Yeah. They're showing it as it is, but they rarely show you the bad part of it. They show you the best of the day. If I'm going to get my phone out and I want to show it to someone, I want to show someone, hey, listen, this was great going for me. You rarely see someone come out and go, hey, listen, I'm having a really terrible day here. I just want to share that with you. Yeah. Nobody does that. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also say that with social media, I did this personally. You are responsible and you're accountable for auditing what you hear and what you see. What do you feed your soul? What do you feed your spirit? Every year I do this. I audit my social media account and I delete a whole bunch of people that I feel like they don't bring a positive energy into my space. And there could be nothing wrong with these people. I just feel like they don't bring
anything to the table.
The table for where I'm going. Because what it is that now you're carrying baggage. You're carrying their baggage. Like it doesn't feed you. Like what diet are you on? What life diet are you on? What are you taking in?
That's amazing.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what are you feeding your mindset? Like what are you feeding it? If you're feeding it this negativity all the time, of course it's going to take an impact on you. So you got to audit your life and say, all right, this person is out, this group is out, that one is out. And then you're in control of your social, instead of complaining about it, because there's no return on investment on that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm really big on that, and that's kind of how I approach anything in my life. It's how I approach it. It's kind of like, I want to be in my bubble. It works for me.
Okay.
Because in my bubble, I get to create the environment that I want. I create the culture. I want a positive culture. I'm at a point in my life where peace is the number one priority. I like a peace of mind. Like I can go watch my son play hockey, or my kids play football, and I am not stressed out about it. That, to me, that is fun. That is my highlight.
That's success.
To me, that is the highest form of success, because I did the one in the States. I had all the money I wanted at one point in the States, and I still was hunting for more. I was looking at my neighbor. He had a nicer pool, and I wanted a bigger pool. So I got a bigger pool. Then I wanted that. And I said, when I come to Canada, I want to buy a really nice house. And I did that. And I was like, and then where does it stop?
Yeah.
And then I got here, and one of the commitments I made was I will always be there for my kids. It's rare that they have, unless I'm out of the country, that they have a game that I'm not at, or they have a school event that I'm not at. Because when you look back, those are the times that matter. I've never heard someone that at their deathbed and their last words was, God, I wish I had made more money.
No one.
Yeah.
Not a single person. Where are they going to take it?
No.
Where are they going to take it with them?
Yeah.
Where are they going? But I've had a lot of people wish I had more time.
Yeah.
I wish I'd spend more time with my daughter. I spend more time with my father. You know, I just lost my dad recently, right?
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I was on the 40 like I was today, and I was speaking to my dad, and we had a great conversation. He was in great health. We were laughing. In fact, he's a politician in Africa, and I was watching on YouTube, and I saw him on YouTube. I said, Dad, I caught you on YouTube, and you're looking good. It's like a six-pack coming soon, you know? And he's laughing, and we're laughing about it. And the conversation went into, you need to come to Africa and invest. You need to come back to your country and make a big investment. You should start this year. And we start talking. I said, Dad, you know, the challenge with Africa is that a lot of people think poorly of Africa. It's hard to come there and do an investment. And he said to me, he goes, listen, they talk about what's poor about your country, but if you look at where you're at, there's a lot of problems there, but nobody's talking about it. You got to be proud of where you're from,
of course,
and come do it proud. So you come back, and you find that the same very people that are complaining about your country, you find them in your country investing in there.
Absolutely. That's media.
Yeah, so that's media. So I go on a plane, and I'm looking at first class, and the first class is filled with Europeans and Asians. And they're going to Africa. They're going to West Africa and Nigeria. I'm thinking, wait a second. I thought it was dangerous. I thought you get kidnapped when you go over there. How come the first class is filled with people? I go to the hotel. I land in Lagos, Nigeria, and there's big high rises being built. 5-star.
Beautiful place.
More beautiful than here.
Yep.
I mean, I saw resorts that you wouldn't believe how gorgeous they look. The lifestyle in Abuja is the new capital of Nigeria. Yeah. I was blown away by my own country. And it would make certain parts of the U.S. and Canada look like poverty. But when you think about Africa, you think about flies going around kids' faces and they're famished and they're looking for food.
Media.
You see what I'm saying? So I was talking to my father about this, and he gets really serious about it. And then after that, we laughed about certain things. He goes, you know what? You got to control your own life, and you don't let other people do that for you. They'll pen an image that is not best serving to you. We laughed about it. I said, listen, I got to go. I'm getting a phone call. My phone kept ringing. I said, I'll call you in the morning. I called him the next day, and I got a call. I couldn't reach him. I got a call from his brother. So your dad just had a heart attack and passed. Oh, God. This is how crazy life is. If I knew that that was the last time I was going to be speaking with him, I would have spent the whole day talking with him. You see what I'm saying? But this is life as it is. It's like you got to
We don't know
cherish.
these things.
Yep. You know. The thing is, I realize a lot of people appreciate what they don't have. What they have, they take for granted. Like our relationships we have. You could cherish that. You could build on that. You have a single disagreement with someone and that whole relationship is gone, or something happens and that's done. But relationships, you can't put a value to it. Even when I speak, I say to the audience, I say, what is the most valuable thing in your life? And they would say to me, oh, my kids are the most valuable things to me, or my job is the most valuable. And I say to them, I say, you know what? Your well-being is the most valuable, because without you, all of that breaks down. So
we're talking about this not too long ago.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Ali said to me in the conference room. We were having a conversation about something personal I needed advice on. And I went to him as a good friend and obviously, you know, someone that is involved in this podcast with me, considering we talk about these things on a daily basis. And that's exactly what he said. He said, there's you, and then there's your kids and your wife. And if you're not good, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, then your kids, your business, your wife, you know, you're the pillar.
Yes.
Right? You're what holds everything together, kind of thing, right? And it's the same thing, what you're saying. It's in line with what you're saying.
If you like having a Ferrari, it's a gorgeous car, but on 3 wheels, where will a Ferrari take you?
That's right.
That's right.
It can't go nowhere.
Yeah.
A plane without an engine doesn't go anywhere. You are the engine of your life. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You are the power. If you can take care of the foundation, then you can build the pillars.
Well, I mean, everything goes back to what you founded this, right?
Yes.
Through care is healthcare.
Yeah, true healthcare
right?
is selfcare.
And,
Yes.
and I admire the work you're doing with the youth.
Yes.
How did it started, and where are you at with it right now? I know you have something going on in Africa, right?
Yes.
Is this programs available also in Canada, in Montreal?
Yes, it is. My program is this 360. It's
Okay.
True Healthcare is Selfcare.
Okay.
Is what this stands for.
That's right.
I registered that name in Arizona 15 years ago.
Okay.
I'm only now just bringing it to life. So this 360 True Healthcare is Selfcare. It started. I had a nonprofit in the States that was an Emmy Award-winning nonprofit. It was to help fight childhood obesity with kids.
Okay.
That was a successful program. But here in Canada, I got a phone call from a psychologist for kids here in the school board here in Montreal. And he asked me, he said, "Amen, we know of your work in the States with kids. Can you do something here to help build the self-confidence and the self-esteem of kids?" And that's right up my alley. So I created this 360
Beautiful.
program, and I teach teachers to run the program in schools.
Okay.
I also hire coaches to run it at schools as an after-school program because the teachers have left. So we have our own team that goes out to the schools to help build the self-esteem and the foundation of these kids, because we find out that the kids are going through a lot these days. A lot of kids, like a friend of mine, Bill Harden, said to me once, he goes, "Today's kids have a tough tomorrow." And that is true. And with all they have a tough tomorrow.
They do.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They lack the self-esteem. They lack the emotional know-how. So with this program, it's a social emotional learning program. It's there to build the basic things they need to function in real life as capable people. And it starts from the foundation, and the kids are the foundation. So the reason the program is successful at schools, like if you go to the schools, I wrote a book called The Tire Boy.
Okay.
Because of my experience in Africa.
Exactly, yeah,
The
yeah.
Tire Boy. So I called the book, my dad actually named the book The Tire Boy. And because of my experience with the tires of my grandmother, I put that in a book. And I went to a school yesterday, I had a book sitting right there. I was like, wow, you got my book. Because she said to me, I teach them social emotional learning using your book. So it's great for you to come in and they get to meet you in person. So that's what we're doing, and it's going into schools. I hope this program, because I don't see any other program like it. We took social emotional learning and brought it to life. Kids don't like to be sitting down and being lectured in a professorial way.
Yes.
They want to move. So this 360 program is about building self-esteem, but it's based on movement. And the movement is a distraction, but the interaction is how we inspire them. You see what I'm saying? So it's my passion. I have my business, which is mindset performance coaching for businesses and individuals, but my passion has always been working with kids.
And it's gonna make a huge impact on the new generation, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're gonna make up the future for us tomorrow.
No, absolutely.
That's
And you are looking at your tomorrow.
And you work with athletes as well.
Yes, I work with everybody, but athletes, especially with athletes. I'm known for my work with athletes.
Can you touch on some of the athletes you've worked with?
Yeah, I've worked with a variety of athletes, but of recent, I've worked with an athlete that I truly admire because he's been on the news quite a bit. It's Carter Gauthier.
Yes.
He's a hockey athlete out of the States.
Yes.
I think he was
drafted in Montreal.
In Montreal, Canada.
2022. I was at the draft.
Yeah.
You told me earlier you were at the draft too. So I took my son because that was his birthday.
Oh, wow.
And he's a huge hockey fan.
Yes.
Plays hockey as well. Mm-hmm. So I took him to the draft, and we had the first overall pick.
Yes.
Carter Gauthier was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yes, he was.
Unfortunately, he was traded.
Yes.
Well, fortunately for him.
Yeah.
And any other athlete you would like to touch on?
Well, I work with Evander Holyfield as a boxer from way back.
Wow.
Back in the day with a whole bunch of athletes, baseball athletes I've worked with, right? So it was a bunch of them. But Carter comes to my mind because he exemplifies the importance of standing true to what you believe in. So when we talk about what we've been talking about today, you can think of him what you may, but he stood on his ground. He stood on business. He stood on what he believed in, his values and whatnot. Even when I did my podcast with him, we didn't go into the details because it doesn't matter. You don't have to justify what matters to you. You don't have to justify what's important to you or why you make your decision. You don't have to do that to everybody. To the people that matter, yes. To the partners, yes. But to the public,
yeah.
You can never do enough. It's never enough. They would always want more until you're depleted. You can't pour from an empty cup. So I love the fact that his mental health and his well-being was a priority for him, and he stood on that, and that was his thing. So Kodagochi as an athlete, it's what I like. Evander Holyfield, we had dinner in Atlanta, Georgia, and when we spoke, and when you meet him in person, the first thing I noticed was his ear was missing for real because Mike Tyson bit it off. You know what I mean? So you watch it on television, but you don't know how real it is until you're sitting right.
So there's like a piece gone.
It's gone. Like, it's totally missing.
Yeah.
I found myself touching my ear. Like,
yeah.
Are we all supposed to have one ear? What's going on with this guy? But he's the nicest, one of the nicest people I've ever met. But what was interesting with him was how physically he's in incredible shape for his age. When you meet him, of course, in the later age, it's like he's in incredible shape right now. Yeah. So he kept that discipline. So I always feel like everybody wants to be an athlete, but they don't know what it takes. A lot of folks don't know what it takes to be an athlete. So when I speak with athletes, this is the message I like to put out there and like to get from them is talk to me about how you dealt with rejection. Talk to me how you dealt with disappointment. Talk to me how you dealt with self-doubt. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the real things because that's what the kids are going through right now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They might see you hold a championship and all that. I want to be Michael Jordan, or I want to be, you name it, any athlete that you like, whether it's tennis, you name it. But how did they really get there? Because to his point of social media is a farce. It's what they want you to see. The media now directs our mindset on where we should think, but you have the ability to choose not to be directed in which other way they want.
Be a content creator, not a consumer.
That's right.
When it comes to social media.
Yeah.
Create content, put it out there. Don't consume it or consume it in a very limited way. Mm-hmm. Coming back to Cutter Gauthier and the athletes, walk me through sitting down with an athlete who was drafted extremely high, has a lot of promise from the U.S. National Development Program, is going to be a superstar in the league. Talk to me about like working with his parents and him. Like, how do these meetings go? Are they casual conversations? Are they over dinner? Are they looking for guidance on how to not necessarily raise him because he's an adult now, but guidance in their day-to-day challenges with the sport, the fans, the way fans react, the pressure. We see it here in Montreal. They're in a fishbowl, these athletes.
Right.
Look what Carey Price went through. He went through substance abuse issues because the weight of the city was on his shoulders for years, and he could do nothing great, but he was great.
Yes. So, I can speak to the extent of other athletes. With Cutter, he had, his support would come, I'm hoping, from the specialists and the experts they have in the organizations that he'll be playing for, even with his college and his teams. But with other athletes, you'd be amazed, or the kids might be amazed, not us, but that they're ordinary people.
Yes.
They just like you and I. They're just extraordinary at doing ordinary things. They're guys that went in there and took their success. They have the same challenges. I have a top athlete, I'm not going to mention his name. One of the reasons he came to speak with me is because he has a huge challenge with social media. Like, he finds that he intrudes his mindset, his well-being. He goes and reads stuff about himself. He can't help it. So he's constantly going on there to read comments about how he plays, but he goes and checks in, I'm not going to look at it. Oh, okay, I'm going to look at it and picks and reads it. And that affects his self-esteem.
That's addiction.
You see what I'm saying? So these are real problems. How many people you have that addiction? We might have that addiction.
A lot.
But to some extent, but we're not held accountable for it because our performance isn't based off of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they have real-time problems. Some athletes have problems with diet. They have problems with sleeping.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. In most cases, it's self-doubt. It's self-doubt.
Would you say there's a lot of substance issues with athletes? Alcohol, drugs?
Yeah, well, with everybody.
Yeah.
With everybody.
I just find that their lifestyle gets to a certain point where they're like, I've made it. I got my big contract. I already won, I already won the cup or I won the championship. And they start,
Yeah, but it's mostly with highly successful athletes. The ones that are highly successful are the ones that tend to be exposed more to substance abuse.
100%.
Yeah, and what you got to understand is that with success comes responsibility.
That's right.
Big time.
Right? So now that you're successful, now how do I stay successful? How do I stay up there? That's a whole nother challenge that we don't talk about. Oh, they're successful. They don't just get to stay there. They have to fight to be at that position. Nobody wants to get there, be embarrassed, and be dropped right after they get where they want to get to.
One-hit wonder.
Yeah, nobody wants to be a one-hit wonder. So they're up there. Now they have the challenge of staying up there. And that's where the substance abuse might come in and help you kind of feel better about yourself to deal with those kind of pressures. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for these athletes.
So I was listening to an interview, two interviews. One was a musician talking about how difficult it is to create a hit and then create multiple hits and multiple hit albums over and over. So he goes, you're only as good as your last hit and your last album. Something very, very similar to our industry. You're only as good as your last year or your last transaction.
That's exactly,
right.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to, I forget which musician it was, but he was a part of I don't know which one, but anyways, it was one of these rock stars from the 80s and 90s that had substance abuse issues. And the reason why he would use substances is because he said, when I would perform in a stadium in front of 50,000 people, I would have to leave the arena with that energy and then go into a hotel room and try to fall asleep all alone. He goes, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. He goes, it's impossible for a human to, perform in front of 50,000 people, singing along to every one of your songs, yelling and screaming your name, then go into a hotel room and be like, let's check to see what's on Netflix. Yeah. The party continues.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
It's
right?
like if your well-being, if your livelihood is based on being perfect, because you have to be perfect in your consumer's eyes.
Yes.
You have to be perfectly what they imagine you to be. If your livelihood is based on that, it's a hell of a responsibility to try to keep up with all the time.
So the two biggest takeaways from everything we have discussed, right? Like for me, it's movement and mindset.
That's right.
If you can keep up with these two things, I think you will live a happy life and be your authentic you.
Well, your mindset should be rooted in your authenticity.
That's right.
Your need for authenticity, because it drives everything else. You can't truly be a happy person if you're not true to who you are. I don't believe it. You can pretend to be happy. Yes, you can do that. People do that very well. People are experts with putting on masks. I mean, you look outside and most people you see, if you ask them how they're doing, I'm great. How are you doing? But we know by statistics that most people out there, they're not as happy.
Good, yeah, exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
But go to 10 people right now, how you doing? The first answer to you is, I'm doing good. Because we've set the standard that they should always feel like they're doing good. They should always do that. But the truth of the matter is, for you to be truly happy, you have to be happy with yourself the way you are right now. Even if you want to better yourself, be happy with who you are and try to grow. Not try to be a better person. You're already a great person, right? You're fortunate. You have your health if you have that. If you look at that, so one of the happiest people I've met in my life are people that have a whole lot less than I do. I ran into a guy not too long the other day. He was in a wheelchair. And I was rushing because I was late to go into a gas station. And I kind of almost ran past the guy and I caught myself and I stepped. And he looked at me, he smiled at me, he goes, you look like you're more in a hurry than I am. Go for it. I'm like, nah, I wish I had your attitude. That's what I wish I had, And he was good. And I'm thinking to myself, who's happier? He looks very content.
Because every day for that guy is a good day.
That's right, yeah.
It's like how do you define it? Right? Don't compare the worst of yourself to the best of others.
Okay.
Because then you're in a prison.
Amen, this has been an absolute pleasure, man.
Yeah.
We want to thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you for having
me. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Truly a pleasure.
For our viewers, if they want to find your services, how to reach out to you, if you can.
Oh yeah. You can follow me on my Instagram page.
Okay.
On Meet Amen.
Okay.
At meet_Amen on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook. My full name, Amen Iseghohi. Okay. Just type Amen and try spelling ISE. My name
it's gonna
should
show
come up.
Yeah.
And come join the journey. Follow
Beautiful.
us. See what's up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brother.
Yeah, it's
pleasure.
been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's
I
mine.
enjoyed this conversation. Learned a lot. And
So did I.
we haven't been moving, so we got to start living. Let's go.
Movement is life.
Movement is life, baby. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.